Welcome back. So I just want to make a few short videos whenever we start a new unit of work, just to sort of help explain what's going on for the week and what your expectations are, and also giving you a hand on where to find things, because I've got most of the work on sector, but there is also some information on my website. So I just want to show you where that is and how that can help you get through the work that I've set. All the assessment tasks are in sector as well. So the expectation is that you hand up work to sector. In some of my classes, I do have some Padlets on there. So you'll be using those to put information on as well, like we've done in the past. Okay, so I'll go through the work using some screen recording. So I'll talk you through what it is that we're doing and just have a bit of a chat about the topics coming up. So first thing that you'll notice is that if you go to the cover page, all the work for the term is on the cover page. I've just made this set up so it's a lot easier to find all the information, and it will then be divided up into 2-week blocks. So depending on how long we do online learning for, you'll have a set of work that will go for 2 weeks. So as I mentioned earlier, we're going to be looking at Shogunate Japan. Now, Shogunate Japan is a period of time that takes place at the same time as medieval England and medieval Europe. So it's that same period of time between around the 700s to about 1600s. But it's in Japan, and we're going to be focusing particularly just on Japan. So, just reading through our introduction, in this unit of work, we'll be looking at the same period of time as medieval England, but this time we'll be looking at what's going on in Japan during this time, including Japanese culture and the rise and fall of the ninja. Our work will be sorted out week by week on this cover page, as well as more info and lessons on Teams. We'll be using Teams to communicate if you have any questions. So a lot of you are already familiar with Teams from last term. If you don't have Teams installed on your computer yet, it's really easy to do, and I will add onto this page, or maybe sector out to you, the password to get into Teams if you don't have that. So Teams is basically what we'll be using to communicate. We do have sector direct messages that some of you have used already to talk to me, but I'd rather you use Teams because Teams is a public forum. So if you have a question about the work and you post it on Teams, it means that other people can see that as well, and they might have answers or even might have the same question. So it saves me having to repeat the answers to questions over and over again. If you do have a question that's particularly, personal, or you don't want anyone else to know that you're asking it, you can certainly still send it through on sector or even as a direct message on Teams. I do tend to read Teams more often. I get notified about Teams constantly, whereas sector, I actually have to log into sector. So you're more likely to get a quicker answer if you do it on Teams. And also with Teams, just be aware that the Teams page is divided up into the subjects. So we've got our general conversation. So that's for all of Year 8s, because of course I've got house classes, English and literacy classes. So that general section is for any general questions. If you've got a question specifically about history, then you need to put it in that history section. If you've got one about English, put it in the English section, etc. So it's a lot easier for other people to find information, and for me to also understand what you're talking about. If you ask me a question about an essay and you stick it in the history section, I may not know whether you're talking about an English essay or a history essay. Just unlock my screen. The other thing that you need to be aware of on Teams is that it is a work page. So this is a page where we communicate about our schoolwork. If you want to talk to people, post memes, videos, etc., then you do that on your own social media. We really need to keep Teams just for work-related stuff. It's okay to say hello to people, but I don't want you to continue conversations on too long because we need to stick to the work that we're doing. And it also makes it really hard for people to find information if they have to scroll through lots of chatter that's not related to their work. And it means also that I then have to go through and delete a lot of stuff that I don't have time to do. So, use Teams just like you would in the classroom if you want to ask a question. Now, you can write to me at any time in Teams, preferably during working hours, so between 8 o'clock in the morning and about 5 o'clock at night. You can ask questions on there. But just be aware that for the next 2 weeks at least, I will just be working with Year 10 students. So I won't actually have a lot of time during the day to sit down and answer all your questions at once. So I'll have our usual lesson time, and there'll be points during the day where I'll be able to sit down and talk to you on Teams. But the chances are that if you ask me a question on Teams, I'm not going to be able to get it straight away. If you do have a question that you really want me to answer and you need the information as soon as possible, you can tag me in Teams using the @ symbol, and I'll know that that's a question that you really want answered, and I'll try to get to that first. Otherwise, use Teams within yourself as a class to ask each other questions, rather than always relying on me necessarily to supply the answers. There might be other people in the class that can answer it for you. If you're not comfortable about asking questions in a public forum like that, then you can still direct message them to me on Sector, or use the direct message system on Teams, and you can send me a more private message that way as well. Just be aware that Sector messages will take me a little bit longer to get to because I don't tend to have Sector open a lot. I tend to use Teams and get notified on Teams. Okay, so let's have a look at what we're doing in the next couple of weeks. So like I said, we want to focus on the history and geography of Japan. So you'll see on the sector cover page, I've got week 1 and 2. Now for history, I'll put most of the stuff onto my website. So if you click on that link, that will take you to the website. If you used the website in the past, then you'll notice that it looks a little bit different. I've tried to sort of work it in with what we're doing. So you'll notice that all our work is separated into weeks 1 and 2, 2-week blocks. If you are looking for the Minecraft work that we did last term, I've uploaded a lot of it onto the home page. And if you click on Minecraft Castles, you'll see that there are lots of images there. I haven't posted the last few that people have sent to me because I have been on holidays and I haven't done a lot of work. But there is certainly a lot up there at the moment. Just on that, I haven't marked the Minecraft castles yet because with the mess that was sort of the end of last term with people leaving early, understandably, a lot of the groups weren't able to get together and take screenshots or get their final pieces or even any progress pictures to me. So if you're one of those groups, can you, if you are at school, see if you can find some time to get onto a computer and take some screenshots for me. I'm happy just to put off the marking of those castles for as long as it takes for things to sort of get back to normal so that we can have them done well. So, like I said, I've looked at the ones I've got and I am so impressed with them. You cannot believe how impressed I am. But I haven't actually put a grade in yet because of the difficulty in catching up with people and finding out how they're going. So well done on that. And I know people put a lot of time into it, even in their personal time and in the holidays, people were still working on it and they are simply amazing. I am beyond impressed. Okay, let's move on though. House, we go to week 1 and 2. So in this first couple of weeks, we're really just getting a bit of an overview about where Japan is and what Japan is. Now, a lot of you have studied Japanese culture and Japanese language in the past, so a lot of stuff you might be already familiar with, but I want us to sort of get a general overview about Japan just in case people haven't got that background information. Okay, so now that we know a little bit more about what life was like in medieval England, we can look at some of the similarities and differences that were happening in Japan around the same time. There was actually still a type of feudalism, so with a main person or persons at the top, and that triangle, if you remember doing that triangle in medieval Europe, there were similar sorts of roles happening in Japan at the same time. And instead of knights, we had samurais. So they did the same sort of job. But there are also a lot of differences in what they believed and how the Japanese lived their life. So Japanese history is often quite new to us as we come from what we call a Western history base. So that's history and culture that comes from our West, which is Europe, particularly England, the Americas. Historically, most of our beliefs and traditions come from England and Europe, as this is where our early settlers were from. Today, though, our society is very multicultural, so it's important to understand the history and beliefs of other cultures as well as our own. And we also get to do that comparison between medieval England and medieval Japan and see that their lifestyles, although on other sides of the world, were really quite similar as well. Okay. So the very first task that I want you to do is to do a Padlet, finding out what you and what other people know about Japan. So I've sorted the Padlet out into different categories. We've got food, people, places, history and events, culture, and I might just add another one that's just other. So what I'd like you to do is to spend a couple of minutes and write down anything that you know about Japan. So, for example, under food, I would put, first of all, I'd put my initials so that I know who I am. And then I would put sushi. That's probably the one thing that I know about Japan that I really like. And I'm actually even going to go into, whoops, I don't want to go to a photo booth. Let's close that because no one wants to see me at the moment. I want to find a picture. So I'm going to go and find a picture. And most of you have done this in the past. So hopefully you're familiar with this program. Oh, yum. Okay, so that's what I know about Japan. I know they have sushi. What else do I know? I know that one of the places is a place called, put my initial, Mount Fuji. I know that's in Japan. I don't know very much about it, but I know. So I'm going to, there we are. And now, let's see if I can find a real photo. There we are. Now, you don't have to put a picture for everyone, but, oops. So you can see that I've started putting on there some of the things. So I'd like you to try to put maybe 3 or 4 things that you know. If you're one of these people that knows a lot about Japan, then try and think of some of the more unusual things that you know. So that us people who don't know very much about Japan can put some of the more simple things in there. So if you've got a really good understanding of Japan, particularly those people who are doing the Japanese language, put down some of the more unusual things perhaps that you know. Okay, so once we've done that, and you'll be able to see what other people have done, as you know with Padlets, I need to approve them before they go up. So make sure you're putting appropriate things up there because once again, it ends up wasting my time and I don't have a lot of time at the moment, as any of us do. So only put things that are up that are appropriate. I will approve them as soon as I can. But once again, because I'm doing some other teaching with my year 10s, that may not be immediately, but I will get to them by the end of the day. So this is something that I would expect you to be able to do in that first lesson that we have of HASS, and I'll approve it by the end of that day. In most cases, any work that we do, I'll try and get done by the end of the day so that you can start the next day knowing what you've done. Okay, so where is Japan? And like, once again, I said I know a lot of you are really familiar with Japan because you're studying it as a language. But when we have a look at the map of the world, we have Australia down here. And then almost directly above, we've got Japan, which is an island up here. And if we look, this is where medieval Europe was happening. This is where medieval Japan, or the Shogunate Japan, was happening. Now, what I'd like you to do is a really simple task first off, is to describe in approximately 100 words, so it's about 10 sentences, where Japan is located in the world. Now, I want you to use the words north, east, south, west, and adjacent. And I'm actually going to add a few more words to that. So in your description, I want you to use some of those words. Excuse me. And then you'll be handing that up into sector. Now, the map above, excuse me, shows how Japan was divided up during the medieval period. So this is the feudal map of Japan. And this is our modern map. So if you have a look at it, a lot of the areas have actually stayed the same. If we look particularly just at this top section, we can see that this little green one on this side is pretty much the same as the purple one on the right-hand side. But the one next to it has been separated. So we can see that some of the areas have remained the same. Now, these areas signify a prefecture. And this is a Japanese name. Well, it's not Japanese, but it's a name they use in Japan to refer to regions, kind of like we use states, like we've got South Australia and New South Wales. Japan has these prefectures. But when we have a look at the comparison between the sizes, so this is the size of Australia compared to the size of Japan, we can see that it's very small in comparison to the size of Australia. Okay, so what we want to do now is have a bit of a look at Japan's history. Now that we've got an idea about where it is, let's have a look at when it is and some of the things that have happened in Japan's history. So what I've done is I've actually put 2 ClickView videos, part 1 and part 2. So these are videos that you will watch and then they'll have the answers pop up. We've done some of these before in history. The answers will pop up and then I'll be able to answer, mark those answers as soon as you do them. ClickView, so I had to just go out of ClickView and then log back in again. So the videos, okay, part 1 and part 2. Let's try this. So as you can see, as it plays through,
on these islands can be difficult. And even giant tsunami waves that hit the coasts.
Videos will pop up that you'll need to answer. Okay? Just be aware, first of all, you need to actually answer the questions. So let's click that one. Make sure you're clicking that save and continue. You can go back again.
Tsunami waves that hit the coast.
and answer the questions again if you've had a bit of a think about it and you think, no, I've done that one wrong. If you're not sure about the answer, you can also go back and re-watch parts of it as well until you get to the information that you need. I'll just double check that they're right. There should be 2 videos, part 1 and part 2. I'll fix those up before Monday. So go through, answer those questions. Be aware that if you don't have time to finish the video during your lesson, you'll need to remember where you are up to. So just sort of visualise which question you're up to, or whereabouts, or even the time. Write it down somewhere so you know what time you're up to, because when you go to watch it the next day, or even later on that day, it won't show you the questions that you've answered. So it'll look like you haven't answered any. But what it does is it does record it for me, so I know your answers. But just be aware that if you start it and you do 3 questions in the morning, when you go back at the end of the day, those 3 questions will be blank. But don't stress, they are recorded on my ClipView as soon as you answer them, and click that save and continue. But you'll just need to keep track of those. So now this one isn't loading, which makes me think that I've done something wrong somewhere. I'll just refresh the page. I'm a bit worried because at the moment they're both saying part 1, so I think I've messed up. Yep, so I'll make sure that there should be part 1 and part 2. At the moment it looks like I've got both part 1s there. So there'll be a part 1 and there'll be a part 2 there. Go through, answer the questions. They both go for about 10 minutes. So particularly during one of your blocked times that you have for house, you should be able to watch almost both of those probably within that block time, and answer the questions. So once you've done that, you'll have a bit of an overview about Japanese history. Then I want you to choose one particular event, and it can be from any period of time in Japan's history. Now if you click the little link here, you've got a summary of Japanese events, and then you've got some world events that were happening around the same time. So I want you to focus on this middle column, and we go through the period of time that we're looking at is this age of city building and nobility. So we're looking at this period of time through to about, it's probably after, through to about the New World. But you can actually choose any period of time. So for example, I've decided that I want to look at the Great Kanto earthquake, and apologies if I'm mispronouncing that. So I would then, let me open up Kanto earthquake. And we can see that there's lots of information about that particular earthquake. So I'll need to have a look through some of those websites, find some that are accurate and are easy for me to understand. Then, this is what I want you to do. I want you to create an A4 poster. So this can just be done on a Word document. You can also do it on a PowerPoint screen if you like, but just use one screen because I just want one sheet. Please don't use Publisher, because Publisher is actually really hard to open on a Mac computer, which I tend to use. So use either just Word or PowerPoint because they're easier files to open. If you do want to use, I forgot the name of it, the picto chart, you can also use that, but stick to an A4 size, because hopefully I can eventually print them up and put them up in the classroom. I may even get the other teachers, depending on where you are as you rate, so I may get the teachers to do that anyway. So what do you need on your poster? You need one image. So just one picture that shows us what that event is. I need one map showing where it occurred. Now obviously they all occurred in Japan, but I want you to try and show me a map that shows more exactly where it occurred, or if it occurred in several places at the same time. I need 100 words, in your own words, about what the event was. And I need those 2 references. So as you can see, it's only a fairly small task. It should probably only take you maybe 1 lesson or 1 block time to complete. The hardest part of it will be to actually read through some of that information and write it into your own words. Okay. Now, I might, So, once we've done that, we're actually going to start looking a little bit closer at the system of feudalism. So what I've got for you underneath here is a description of the different class system. So there's different levels of the pyramid. So we have samurais, we have farmers, we have artisans, we have merchants, and then we have people below that system and people above that system. So what I would like you to do is to have a read through that, and then I want you to have a go at creating a pyramid like we did with the medieval period, the pyramids that we created. You don't have to do the 3D model one, but just in a triangle, I want you to place those people into that pyramid, and perhaps give a little bit of information about each one, what each one is. I'll also add a video as well that explains that feudal system in a little bit more detail, so that will be ready and up and running too by Monday. So, as you can see, overall, this is a work that you'll be working on for the next 2 weeks. There are some that will take a little bit longer, some that you'll be able to get through a lesson. And like I said, there are a couple of changes to the website that I need to make, just a few little things that I need to adapt, but it will all be ready and up and running on Monday. Okay, once again, if you have any questions about particular tasks, shoot them through on Teams. In Sector, you'll see that I've got all those tasks marked as assessment tasks, and the due date for all of them will be at the end of week 2. Okay? So I'll probably post another video or catch up with you again at the start of next week, just to see how you're going and to add any comments that I might need to add about the work that people have done so far. Okay, have a great week, miss you all, and I'll see you.